What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Horror Honda, and this episode is a little different because I am, in fact, not in a Honda, and also I don't have a hat on. Usually I have a backwards hat. But my wife is out with her sister celebrating her birthday. My daughter is asleep, or supposed to be asleep, in the other room. And I found my old microphone in a box in the closet. So I figured, hell, I'll just hook up my laptop and do one from here. So hopefully it turns out alright. We're going to see. And I haven't really watched any new movies recently. I rewatched Exorcist Believer with my wife, and that was out of pure spite and anger. And I can't review that movie because if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And if I were to talk about that movie, it would probably honestly be a 3-hour rant. But I'm going to talk about one of my favorite movies that is a nostalgia classic, one that really shaped how I look at horror. When I was talking about The Omen last time and how that affected how I view certain imagery and certain things, this movie affected how I viewed horror moving forward and what I find is my template and my scare, and that is Hostel. And I saw this movie around when it first came out. I was way too young, 10, 11, oldest 12 when I saw it. And I put it on. We had the on demand where you could see and watch movies and stuff. And so I had put it on, and I'd heard the title and I'd seen the commercials, and my older sisters had talked about it, and it was this thing that I was not supposed to watch. And how many horror stories that all of you have where it is something you're not supposed to do, and that's where the intrigue comes in. And this was a movie I knew I was not supposed to be seeing, and I put it on. And it changed how I viewed horror movies going forward. Because as a 10, 11, 12-year-old boy, this had everything I could think of. One, I'm not supposed to be watching it. Two, the first half of this movie is just damn near porn. Which at that age, dude, I'm pausing every 10 seconds. So there's a new pair of boobs on the screen. It was blowing my mind. I was not ready for it. And then when it starts to pick up, it is just carnage candy unlike anything I've ever seen. It is just gore galore, dude. It is Achilles getting cut. It is eyeballs getting burned and snipped off. It is just sick and depraved. And so the amount of stimulus that I received at that young age of seeing something I'm not supposed to, that's off limits, that's full of nothing but sex and blood as a kid, man, it just heightened every single thought that I had about horror in that moment. And this is a movie that gets looked back on that people find cheesy, or at the time it was raunchy and ridiculous and over the top and disgusting and that torture porn stuff. And now people look back on it, and Eli Roth doesn't have the best rap as a director. That's not a word, director. But I love Eli Roth movies. That is, I was at a very influential age when he was kind of popping off. And this movie was the catalyst for that. And while people can look back on it now and nitpick it and can kind of, it's not as aggressive as it was when it came out, the effect it had, how brutal it was, it stuck. It stuck. And if you've never seen it, if you're a pretty modern horror person and you watch stuff like that, I don't think it's going to be as shocking as some of the stuff that you can see today, that you probably have already seen today. But to go back to the time, it really was boundary pushing. And that's a positive for me, is just nostalgia. I think that might be one that you have to have. That little bit of nostalgia helps, because you got to think, dude, that movie is 15 years old probably. I'm just doing simple math off my head. I almost 20 years old probably. So it's not going to be as aggressive or packing a punch like something nowadays would, comparatively. But it's still fucking brutal. And that is a positive for me. And what holds up with it is it's still gross. No matter how much has passed, no matter how many films have been made, how much time has passed, when you see Achilles getting slit, when you think about jumping in front of a train, when you think about getting an eyeball slowly cut with scissors, chainsaws, heads getting cut, it is still practically effective. Kind of like when you look back on The Thing and the practical effects get hailed. Yes, you've seen more since then, or CGI, or this or that, and more brutal things since The Thing came out, but you still always go back to it and go, that is a staple of practical effects. And in my opinion, Hostel and Eli Roth was my generation's dad. I'm not saying he's John Carpenter before people misconstrued what I'm saying, but for me and my time, and when I was a kid, I didn't have The Thing to watch. I had Hostel, I had Saw, I had movies like that was really opening my eyes and separating the men from the boys, from a lack of a better term, as far as what horror movies that you liked. And I think it still holds up to this day. I've seen that movie 100 times, and I still tighten up and cringe at some of the things that they do in that movie. And I think the reason this is a universal horror film for me and will last forever is not the gore and stuff. That once the shock value wears off, that's just a piece of the story. The real fear is that could happen. You could easily be a dude out with your boys, and when dudes get together, they make some stupid... They say shit they're not supposed to say. They do stuff they're not supposed to do because the women aren't around, because people aren't around. You're kind of amplifying the male parts of you and the douchey parts of you, whatever. It's amplified. You're with your boys. You're doing stupid stuff. And you could, without a doubt, as a man, end up in a stupid situation because you're out there looking for girls. You're out there trying to get messed up. You're young. You're trying to do this, that, and the other. And you could find yourself in a very precarious situation. And I only say that because I know friends, I know people, you probably have done it. That as a guy, you get in real stupid situations by having one too many drinks, thinking with the wrong head, taking one too many of this, doing that, not being what... And before you know it, you're fucked. I know a guy that he went out for drinks, at a bar, ended up at one point, he just thought Vegas was a good idea. He had a wife. He just drinks and drugs and whatever the hell they went out and doing. Next thing you know, he's in fucking Vegas. So people make some boneheaded decisions, especially dudes. And so this film, you've got 3 young college Americans in a foreign country that are cocky, that think they're the shit, that are just trying to get laid, that are trying to get fucked up, that their whole intention of this trip is to go and get as much ass as they can. And they find a local that's getting them ass. And you'll put yourself in some sick, ridiculous, depraved areas in the worst situations to get that. And that's a criticism I've seen that people have of this movie, is that they make dumb decisions. And in my opinion, I don't think they're dumb. I think they're dudes being dumb. In hindsight, yes, they're dumb. If you were sober and said, let's go to Europe and try and get laid, let's do this. If you were sober and said, let's go get the next flight to Vegas and we're going to go party all weekend. Be like, no, dude, I have a job and money and this, and I got to take it. When you've got drinks and drugs in your system and you're out with people and the energy's popping, you'll make some dumb decisions. And I think that's what led them into this scenario. Out there in a foreign land making stupid decisions, you could end up on a chopping block for rich people trying to get their fix. And that adds the other layer of the fear, is that there are people... You watch the fucking news, you turn on the internet. There's so much sick, depraved stuff going on with people that are even high profile that they're the ones that get caught. How many people are out there not getting caught? That they've had the rush, they've had the money, they've had the drugs, they've had the women, they've had the men, they've had the everything. What's the next thing that's gonna give that dopamine, give that serotonin, that rush? What's gonna give it to me? Maybe it's spending 30 grand and killing a person. And this movie was inspired by the dark web and stuff, and I think it was called the Red Room, where you could pay to watch someone get killed. So, human nature has that in them, and that's the fucking fear. It's not the demons that scare me. It's not the ghosts and the ghouls and the goblins and the monsters. They can make me jump. They can be eerie and weird. But when you have movies like The Strangers, when you have movies like Hostel, where this could happen to you. You could be out and end up, next thing you know, getting human trafficked or getting murdered. That's terrifying. And that is the bigger fear of that movie than the gore and the blood and the guts and all that. That's just a little cherry on top for people that love the gore galore that you have. The fear and the horror is that you could end up in that scenario, getting hacked to pieces. And the other thing that I've seen as a criticism that I don't see as a criticism that I like is the dialogue. People feel that Eli Roth writes real frat boy dialogue. His characters are all douchey. They're not likable. They say inappropriate things. They're not this. My argument to that is the same that I have with Rob Zombie. I guess it's not an argument. My opinion and why I like it is there are people in the world that talk like that. Not everyone's a clean-cut person. Not everyone's likable. There's a lot of people out there that are fucking douchebags. And you know who they have as friends? Douchebags. And so in movies, I don't mind seeing characters that are obnoxious, that say vulgar stuff, that are insensitive, because those people walk the earth. And they do things too. And we coexist with them just like everybody else. So if you're writing a film about 3 American kids that go to a foreign country, that their whole intention is to get laid, chances are they are going to be vulgar. They are going to be loud. They are going to be obnoxious. They're going to get kicked out of bars. They're going to start fights. They're going to do, because that is people. You graduated high school with people like that. I graduated high school with people like that. We all know people like that. You might be a person like that. That's okay. There are people that do that. With Eli Roth's other movies like Cabin Fever, you have the store clerk that's racist and there says these racial things and stuff, and the characters say things, and people talk like that. They might not be the best people. They might not be people you think are quality people. You might think that's atrocious and terrible, but guess what? They walk the earth. So I have no problem in zombie movies and Roth movies where the dialogue is aggressive or it seems like too much, because I think there's people like that. And for these characters, I think that's how it should be. Douchey Americans, I want them acting like douches. I don't want them to be good guys. Even by the end, he's not. When you get down to the final guy, you haven't been rooting for him this entire movie. You're just rooting for him because you don't want him to get tortured in a horrific way. Not because you like him. You haven't liked him the whole movie. You think he's an asshole. But you just don't want him to see him die like that. And the scariest scene in this entire movie is when the lead is trying to escape this hostel or this torture where he's at. And he's dressed up and he's in the locker room and he's trying to escape and get out of there. And he meets this guy who's doing his first kill. And he walks in and he doesn't know that he's an escapee. And so he's just talking to him as 2 dudes that have paid their dues to come kill these people. And he's asking these questions about how should I do it? How would you do it? Should I do the fucking gun? Should I do this? Should I do that? And whatever that actor's name is, he's a side character in a lot of movies and I think he's great. His passion, his nerves, his anger, I can't fucking wait to do that. He's just zooted. He's just talking about, I've had every woman in this fucking country, I've done every drug, I've done everything, and now this is the next thing. And he's just like gritting his teeth, anxious to go butcher somebody and plan how to do it. And there are people like that, and this guy portrays it. You could tell he's so fucking amped. He's like a cage fighter ready to just walk out there. The music hits, your nerves are there. Let's fucking go. I'm so fucking ready. And that's what he is. That same energy that can do amazing things. You can achieve great heights. You can build and create and make legacies, and fear can drive you, and nerves can drive you, and anxiousness can drive you. But his is directed towards butchering a human being. All while his wife and kids or whoever is probably at home. He's some rich billionaire businessman. He's got his wife, family, kids, second home, third home. He's on some business trip, and he's just planning to come butcher someone on a Friday, fly home Saturday, and be with his family. Like nothing happened. just to get that fix, that rush. That's what's terrifying. I understand that the movie might not hold up today. If you've never seen it, if you saw it back then, it might not have been your thing. If you see it today, it might not be your thing. Well, I just feel like this is a movie that should be more respected or appreciated. And I feel like as time goes on, it'll kind of garner a legacy of its own. I think it's phenomenal. I love Hostel. I love Hostel Part 2. I've seen Hostel 3 a couple times, but Eli Roth I'm a big fan of. All the films of his I've seen, and some of them, I can admit, are just gore for the sake of gore, this or that, and I like that. But as far as what this movie did for me, it showed me a different side of gore that I've never seen. It showed me a storyline like I'd never seen, and it really re-energized or really planted that seed of, this is taboo, you're not supposed to watch this. So I get that kind of like, I'm not supposed to be seeing this. Now horror to me is stuff that's supposed to be a little off limits. It's supposed to be icky. It's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be a little aggressive. And so it really shaped what I like in horror, what affects me. And I think Hostel is the plot. It might not work well for you, but I think the idea and the plot of it, to me, is true terror. Being stuck in a situation in a land where you know absolutely nothing or no one where you're at, and you are stuck with people that just want to kill you for the heck of it, just to get a fix. That is a nightmare. And guys, let me know down below what you think. Likes, dislikes. Are you an Eli Roth guy? I feel like there's not many of us. I said this about being a Rob Zombie fan the other day. I feel like it's the equivalent of like a Nickelback situation. I feel like they're easy targets to hate on and dislike and say, well, they're not real directors or real writers because they write these douchey characters. All they do is make torture porn and this and that. But I think past that surface level, I think there's a lot that Eli Roth does that, while you might not like it, I think it's deeper than just, I'm going to show blood. And that's what I get out of it. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. I hope this is good quality. I've tried testing it out a little bit on here. And I don't plan to do many of them in here. I just happen to be in a circumstance of daughter's asleep, wife's out. I found the microphone. I just have a day where I happen to be able to actually sit down and do this here. So if it comes out good, hopefully I can do more in this setting. If not, then it is what it is. I apologize for the shitty quality on this video. What are you going to do? But thank you all for the love and support and all that good stuff. You guys are the best. Let me know down below what you think I should review next. Peace.